Welcome back. Thank you for all the support on the Muse content so far. I'm continuing my series of Muse reviews, and this time it's Black Holes and Revelations. As I've been going back through these albums, I've found that Origin of Symmetry is currently still my favourite. I think that this album is a very different flavour to the previous albums from Muse. I think if we were to distill the albums, Origin of Symmetry is incredibly angsty, it's very space-focused, and it has a lot of obvious classical influences in the songwriting and melody choices. But in Absolution, we still have those orchestral elements, but the space has taken a bit more of a backseat as a theme, and it's been replaced with a much heavier focus on politics. And in Black Holes and Revelations, the politics is still very much front and center. The space is still there, but you only really hear it subtly in songs like Take a Bow or Knights of Cydonia. And the most prominent style in this album is actually a Western style. Many of the songs sound very Mexican or inspired by Spanish, flamenco, or Latin music. That influence has always been in Muse, and we talked about it in Uno, we talked about it in Blackout, but it's never been more obvious than it is here. And when comparing which of these three albums might be the best or might be your favorite, I think fundamentally, from having re-listened to this, Absolution probably does have the edge over Black Holes and Revelations. But it just kind of depends which style you prefer more. If you're more into space, then I think Origin of Symmetry will appeal to you more, as it does to me. If you like the variety pack and a much more political and dystopian focus, then Absolution will be your favorite. And if you like this weird space politics Western fusion more, you'll like this album. That's just how I see it. But the first song on this album is quite an unusual one, which is Take a Bow. This sounds very different to the rest of the album because it is a synth-driven song. It's about politics, it's about conspiracy theories, and I think that this song has some of the best lyrics that Muse have ever written. In fact, Take a Bow, in terms of its overall lyrics, is top 5 for me. It's really good. And the track is a perfect opener because of the way that it slowly builds up. And structurally, this song is very complicated, and I'm not going to get into all of the details. There are other channels, like David Bennett Piano has a really great video on Take a Bow specifically. But the way it works is that this song is built around an arpeggio, and it's an arpeggio that interestingly is not that different from Newborn. The song is in 3/4 or 6/8, and this is a time signature that gives the song a lot of impetus to keep going. And that's because 3/4 at the end of a measure leads into the start of the next one. So as soon as you end one bar, you have immediately started into the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. It's got this impetus driving it forwards. And the song starts off based around only 2 chords that repeat. But then when we break out of this and hear the third chord, it is not an arpeggio that is inside of our key. The song has actually changed key by a semitone upwards. We call this a half-step modulation, and Take a Bow changes keys a lot more than any other Muse song. It has 14 different key changes, moving chromatically up through the different keys throughout the song. Now, we already talked at length in the Origin of Symmetry review about how semitones can build tension and unease, and that is exactly the purpose of these key changes here. We do not really have much of a home base throughout this song tonally. The drama in the song continues to escalate exactly like the different keys that we're cycling through do as well. And the lyrics escalate throughout this song as well. There are so many different lyrics that I like. The first words are corrupt, you corrupt, bring corruption to all that you touch, and beholden for all that you've done. This song is clearly addressed to someone who has done something wrong, a corrupt individual, which is most likely a politician, which is confirmed by cast a spell on the country you run, you will risk their lives and their souls, clearly a reference to conflict, to war. Maybe Matt is referencing the involvement of the US and the UK in the Iraq War around the time this album came out. Maybe he's talking about the fact that there are no real policy suggestions and we're risking the lives of the people within the country. Lots of interpretations. And burn, you will burn in hell for your sins. You bring death and destruction to all that you touch. And as we continue through the song, it gets even more dramatic. You must pay for your crimes against the earth. Feed the hex on the country you love. I love that lyric because it's referencing the cast a spell on the country you run. We've instead reinterpreted the spell as something negative, a curse, a hex. and the juxtaposition between the curse that is being placed on this country and the fact that this person is supposed to love this country. And the comeuppance that Matt is singing for is really quite dark. You will beg for their lives and their souls. And the song ends with, you will burn in hell for your sins. I like it because at the start, we're clearly talking about this person casting a spell on the country you run. Maybe this is like pre and post election campaign. So before, the person seems perfectly fine and they're trying to cast a spell to convince as many people as possible to vote them in. And then afterwards, when we have the explosion, the dramatic second section of the song, it's instead a lot more venomous from the perspective of the singer towards this person. And I absolutely love this. I think this is such a great political song, so much more effective at calling out conspiracies or political leaders than something like Uprising, in my opinion, but we'll get to that song eventually. Take a Bow has these enormous walls of sound. It's such a great album opener in the way that it builds itself up, and I love how it ends with so many different vocal harmonies, some really dissonant intervals right at the end, and the song ends with an explosion into static, which then transitions into Starlight. This is the best Muse song that is also a mainstream, accessible, more pop song, alternative rock song, at least in my opinion. I think that compared to something like Time Is Running Out, or Madness, or any of their other big singles, Starlight is such a more catchy song. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's got quite an endearing quality about it, which I think comes from the piano. The song is bright, but also melancholic at the same time. It has this sadness, but it also has a great deal of energy, which comes from the non-stop bass line, which isn't complicated, but it is sustaining us throughout the whole song, and the snare hits, a little bit unpredictable. Once you recognize the pattern, they are quite predictable, but it's not a conventional groove. And I think Matt's vocals really shine in the verses and choruses, especially the Hold You in My Arms lyric. I think that works so well over the piano in the background. And in the second verse, we have this guitar part in the background as well, which makes it feel more like an alternative rock song. And this time, instead of going back into the chorus, we instead have this pre-chorus section, which is a lot heavier. The guitar part is playing some power chords now, and we can hear some classic synth arpeggios in the background. And then we have what is essentially like a second chorus or a bridge. Structurally, it doesn't really matter, but I like to think of this as a separate second chorus. We have two types. We have the Hold You in My Arms chorus, and we have the Black Holes and Revelations chorus. And this one is very interesting because it's where the name of the album comes from. Our hopes and expectations, Black Holes and Revelations. Other than simply being some words that rhyme in a really cool way, if we were to try and analyze what exactly is being meant here, there is clearly a parallel being drawn between hopes and black holes and expectations and revelations. I think the most obvious one is expectations are what you obviously expect to be the case, and revelations are what actually turn out to be the case. So there may be a discrepancy between those two things, which helps us to understand what he means when he says hopes, presumably something positive, hoping something is going to happen, and a black hole, which in many ways would signify the end of something, because everything is going to end by entering a black hole in the grand scheme of things. So we have a hope that something is going to happen, and we have a black hole that represents something ending. And it comes after the lines, "I'll never let you go if you promise not to fade away." Maybe this is about the fact that the singer is in a relationship and that person is drifting away from them, and that's not what they expected. They had this hope for something, but it has instead turned out to be a black hole. And because we have this difference in what we would expect, what we hope, and what we end up getting, I think it's very interesting that this was used as the album title, because I think by calling this album Black Holes and Revelations, you are awake to the reality of what is going on. This album is going to feature moments of darkness, the black holes, and revelations, being awake to certain ideas such as the city of delusion and stuff like that. And Matt's vocals in the final chorus are really great as well. Definitely a highlight of the song. And so Starlight is a really great song, but it's very different from Take a Bow. But it does feel like it strangely fits. The static outro of Take a Bow and the transition into the bass line of Starlight does weirdly work. I never used to think that it did, and then I got the record of it and listened to the seamless transition, and it does actually really work. But they are definitely really different, and the next song on the album is even more different and actually kind of takes you by surprise a little bit, in my opinion, because it's so out there and not really like anything we've heard from Muse before, and certainly not been set up for in this album, which is the song Supermassive Black Hole. And it's easy to overlook the fact that it is quite out of place in their discography because the song is so big, but it does sound really weird. It's a very fuzzy guitar tone, and that main riff comes out of nowhere. The song can be quite heavy, but it isn't really ever that heavy because of the lightness of the tone. If the tone was a bit heavier though, this could be a really heavy intro, especially when the riff kicks in with the drums. And this is one of the few songs where Matt sings in his falsetto for the entire thing. The only other example I can think of where he actually does that without going into his chest voice at all is Microcuts. I always got the sense that there was a lot of Prince influence in this song. Just in the way that he sings it, I always got that feeling. And that's not a feeling I've had so far when listening to Showbiz, Origin of Symmetry, or Absolution. That's a new influence I've seen emerge in their songwriting. Not to say that it wasn't present before, just not as obvious. And my favourite part of the song is the chorus part, where Chris is singing glaciers melting in the dead of night, and the superstars sucked into the supermassive black hole. And at the same time, Matt is singing in his falsetto, "You set my soul alight." I really love this section. I love the counterpoint between the two voices, and I really like the bass line as well in this moment. The way it walks down is really cool. But it's a very interesting song. It's very heavy, it's guitar driven, it's fuzzy, but it also sounds quite electronic. I think the most spacey that the song feels is during the solo, with the way that the guitar is reverbed, moving around the soundscape. It really sounds like something is traveling through space. The thing that makes it otherworldly is the strangeness of the guitar tone compared to the rest of this album and also their discography so far. It does give it an otherworldly feeling. The next song is one of the best that Muse have ever written, which is Map of the Problematique. This song is just incredible. I do always feel like it never properly translates live, which is a shame, but it would be very difficult to do because of how involved this track is, how many layers there are, how thick the wall of sound really sounds. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the studio version is incredible and one of the best things that Muse have ever made, without a doubt. The first thing we hear is another thing which we have never heard before, which is this strange arpeggiating effect that Matt has on his guitar. We then hear piano, which is reverbed and delayed, much like the guitar part, and then when that comes in, the rest of the band comes in as well. But there is a build-up as well. The drums are not initially playing a solid backbeat, but they are building up over the course of the song, eventually launching us into a solid backbeat for the first verse. I love the way that Matt sustains the notes in the lyrics here. Fear and panic in the air. I want to be free from desolation and despair. Really great lyrics. I feel like everything I sow has been swept away. Very interesting that the singer doesn't feel like they're being rewarded or gaining any benefits for trying hard or trying their best. And as a result, he refuses to let this person go. I refuse to let you go, because he's tried, but either his efforts are not good enough or they're in vain. And then he sings, I can't get it right. And then very interestingly, since I met you. I don't really know, is that placing the blame on that person? Maybe they're the reason they can't get it right, because before they were able to. Is it because they're nervous and they want to sustain this, whatever this relationship is with this person, but they just can't do it? The chorus probably lends more credence to that second theory, loneliness be over. When will this loneliness be over? So that is a motivation for the singer to try really hard to try and keep this person in their life, but it's not working. And maybe that's the reason. I love the atmospheric guitar effects that we're hearing throughout this song. I think the bass line is a real highlight of this song as well. I love how we're moving up into the higher notes on the bass at certain parts of this song. After the chorus, we hear this sort of post-chorus riffy section built around a version of the 3-3-2 subdivision. The drums in this song are great. There's some great hi-hat work going on, opening and closing at different points. And then we explode out of this quite heavy riffy section into more of a two-step groove, which is my favorite part of the song. This two-step is just so heavy and it's so dramatic. And then the vocals come in for the second verse like nothing ever happened. And Matt's vocals are so good in this song. The way that he sings "I Can't Get It Right" and he does that vocal rundown at the end. There's just so much drama, so much high emotion. It really takes you away, this song. It is one of their best. The only thing they made that was sort of like this in the future was Big Freeze, and that is an amazing song, but this is just something else. Even to this day, it is so unique for them. So impressive that they were able to pull this together in the studio and make it work so well. There are some very interesting B-sides on the Map of the Problematique single, the different edits that they made, the Rich Costi edit of trying to get this song right, and they really perfected it. It's hard to imagine this song being any better than it is. And there are some really great lyrics in here that I forgot to mention, like, "And no one thinks they are to blame. Why can't we see that when we bleed the same? I can't get it right." It's so good. I absolutely love this song. One of my favorites of all time. I would absolutely love to hear it live. And the next song is Soldier's Poem. I never know really whether or not to think of Soldier's Poem as an interlude, which I think it does function as within this album because it's only a 2-minute song, or more as a song. And I think it can do both, which is what's great about Soldier's Poem. I used to think it was boring, I never really used to like it, but that's really because I never gave it a chance. And when I listened to what this song was actually about, I really came to appreciate it. It's short, sweet, and does what it needs to. And I think it's a much more worthwhile listen than Interlude. Even though I really like Interlude and its Adagio for strings influence, I don't feel like it's really long enough to get the level of enjoyment that I would get out of Soldier's Poem. I love the acoustic, I love the 6/8, I really love the vocal harmonies in this as well, and the way that the voice is canon. So what I mean by that is how the voices, how the vocal parts repeat in different band members. So Matt will sing a line and then either Matt as a different voice will canon it, or Chris will repeat it in the background over another lyric. And this song is clearly about the Iraq War, or at least a war where people have been sent for king and country and have realized that they really don't know why they're out here, they don't want to be here, and they've been sent by people who don't care for their particular wants, desires, who don't care for those soldiers as people. And so this song is meant to represent the thoughts of those soldiers while they're on the front lines writing their soldier's poem, much like soldiers did in World War I. I think this song has a lot of parallels to stuff like Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon. How could you send us so far away from home when you know damn well that this is wrong? That is such an effective lyric, directly calling out the people in power, much like Take a Bow did, on their actions. There is corruption. The leaders are lying to us. And while we have these leaders who lie, who claim to love their country, but really cast a spell on it, feed a hex on it, they're not the people fighting. These soldiers are the people who know that what they're doing is futile or wrong, and yet they would still lay down their lives for these people and for the people at home. And the line, "Do you think you deserve your freedom?" is so effective. And it's answered, no, I don't think you do. Freedom, or what the idea of freedom that people have or that politicians sell, is not worth the lives of all of these people being lost, either by these soldiers or by the people that the soldiers are killing for seemingly no reason. The song ends with a really bleak line. There's no justice in the world, and there never was. Yet the lyric is sung, a really dark line, a revelation, if you will, from this album about the state of the world, the state of society. Yet the lyric is sung in a really beautiful and light and sweet way, and there is this contrast between how the lyrics are sung in such a beautiful, lullaby-esque instrumental way and their actual meaning, which I really love. That's something that they did in Absolution very effectively, and I think it works in Soldier's Poem, and I really like it. I think Soldier's Poem has so much to offer. It's such an interesting exploration of illegal wars and sentiment towards public figures, and the way that leaders treat the people who they are meant to be the servants of. The next song is Invincible. So where this album is looking at dark moments like black holes, and it's looking at revelations of the truth and conspiracy theories, strangely, Invincible is more akin to Starlight. It's a song about love, about relationships. It's one of the few moments on the album of happiness and lightness, and therefore it's really welcome, because the rest of this album is going to be very dramatic and very dark. But interestingly, I don't think the depth of this album reached the same depths as we felt in Absolution, or Origin of Symmetry, or even Showbiz. This whole album is quite a bit brighter, and even by that standard, Invincible is a positive song. It's a real forgotten classic by Muse. Like, it is a single on this album, but it's not a song that they play as much as other singles. It never really made it quite as big as some of the other songs, definitely overshadowed by Supermassive Black Holes, Starlight, and Nights of Cydonia on this album. It has a lot of interesting elements, like a slider on the guitar for the intro melody. We can also hear an organ in the background, which is one of the few Muse songs to actually feature an organ. And I really like the marching snare on this song as well. That's a very different feel to what we normally get. And it's a very empowering song. Follow through, make your dreams come true, don't give up the fight, you'll be alright because there's no one like you in the universe. And it's a really nice song about pulling together with someone. Together we're invincible. During the struggle they'll pull us down, but let's turn things around. And it's a really sweet and happy song. My favourite moment is actually when we leave the chorus or verse, whatever it is, and then we go into the guitar solo. First of all, we have this riff section before we actually get there that can be quite heavy, especially live when Matt adds a semitone to the riff, but in the studio version he just plays one single note and then goes into a guitar solo, which is using the whammy pedal and is using a lot of tapping as well, which is quite similar to how he plays the Newborn solo in the second half. And then we have one final big chorus to close us out, and I really like this song. I always have. I don't think it's the best on the album, and I don't think it's one of their best songs, but it is very different, or at least it's different enough, and I always enjoy listening to it. The next song is Assassin, and this is one of the best Muse songs. This is the heaviest song on the album. It's definitely, in my opinion, the most riff-based song on here. We start off with a higher pitched guitar melody, like an intro riff, I suppose you could say, and then the rest of the band comes in with a lot of energy. The drumming on this song is insane. Dominic Howard is doing such a good job at making interesting and creative drum parts, as he always does. And we're playing a variation of that isolated riff that we heard. So we have that intro, more isolated section, and then we have a bit where the band comes in, and then we have the third and final section, which is the heavy riff, the riff that everyone recognizes. We've moved down to the lowest string on the guitar, and the drums are keeping up our energy with a really cool groove. The cymbals accenting every downbeat. The tempo of this song is the perfect tempo to jump up and down to. The definitive live version of this is the Live at the Mayan version, when they're using their drones rig, which is naturally a bit more heavy, to play this riff, and it hits so much harder with that live equipment. And this song is definitely political in nature. The lyrics, "War is overdue. The time has come for you to shoot your leaders down and join forces underground. We are being called into the resistance." The song is called Assassin, and this song is calling on you directly to become an assassin, to shoot your leaders down. And we know exactly why. We explored that in Soldier's Poem and in Take a Bow. The chorus, "Lose control and increasing pace, warped and bewitched, in time to erase whatever they say, these people are torn, wild and bereft, assassin is born." This chorus sounds a lot like a poem to me. I think it's very much up to interpretation what the chorus actually means, but I think my interpretation comes from the last part. Whatever they say, these people are torn. I think these people is referring to the populace, the general public. Whatever they're going to say to you to talk you out of committing this crime, this assassination, they don't really know what they want because they are torn. They have mutual self-interest, they're brainwashed by the media. There's so many reasons. They don't really know what they want. And out of the ashes of a confused people who can't agree on anything, you will find wild and bereft, assassin is born. And maybe wild and bereft is talking about the people themselves. The public feel bereft. They have nothing. They have not been given anything to conserve or to have. Social norms and laws have broken down. The place has become wild. That's how people feel. They're only interested in themselves. There is no community anymore. Wild and bereft. And from that community, an assassin will be born, which seemingly will unify those people by committing their assassination, at least in the perspective of the album. Obviously, it's not always the case that assassination would actually do that, but this seems to be from the perspective of someone either convincing someone to be an assassin or the assassin themselves. And from from their perspective, assassination will fix things and will reunify people and community and society. And I love how also in the chorus, musically, we enter a more half-time groove in the drums, and we also rhythmically have a time signature change where we go from 4/4 to an additional measure of 2/4 at certain points, just to throw us off guard, keep us on our toes. A really cool little time signature change that most people don't notice because it's all multiples of 2 and it all adds up to some multiple of 4 in the end. And I've always loved the line in the second verse, destroy demonocracy. A cool play on words, describing democracy as actually one where the leaders are demons. We've explored how evil they are based on their actions in Soldier's Poem and Take a Bow. And I just absolutely love this song. I think it's got a great groove, great energy. It's got some super heavy parts, especially when we go back to the main riff after the chorus. And also, I really like some of the different versions that exist of this, like the Grand Omega Bosses version, where in the second part of our 3-stage riff we heard at the start, there is this tapping, squealing guitar part right at the start, and I like the extended outro section as well. I think that's really heavy live, and I really like the harmonic minor scale being used in that section. I love the transition out of the slower part, the heavy slow part, into the main riff again. That's really great. And I prefer it at the end of the song like they did in 2015 in the Mayan live performance, as opposed to in the middle of the song like they did in the studio version of the Grand Omega Bosses edit. The next song is Exo-politics. This is a seriously good song, and it's a real shame because it gets overshadowed by some really big and really great songs on this album, but I love the riff. The riff is so good. The drumming is so enormous, so heavy, so impactful. It has such an interesting groove as well. I honestly don't really get how you wouldn't like this song. I mean, it's just got everything you want. And my favourite thing about this song is the way that the chorus is in 2 halves. We have the first chorus, which feels really big, like an explosion from the verse, and we think that's going to be our maximum level of intensity. When the Zetas fill the skies, will our leaders tell us why? Fully loaded satellites, his vocal delivery on that line is so good. We'll conquer nothing but our minds. We hear the riff again, and we think we're probably going to go back to a verse, but we instead go into the second section, which is the big, enormous, heavy section. Sounds like an enormous wall of sound, and Matt's sustained notes in his singing are so good here, and I'm waiting patiently. I'll wait for the sign. He sings it so passionately with so much conviction. It really sells the moment. This song is still about politics, and it's actually about conspiracy theories more specifically. Conspiracy theories to do with space and to do with aliens. When the Zetas fill the skies, it's talking about aliens. When the grey aliens fill the skies and arrive, will our leaders tell us we already know that those leaders are not going to trust the public and they're not going to serve them? There's a direct suggestion that the world leaders are in cahoots with the aliens, and fully loaded satellites will conquer nothing but our minds. Could mean so many things. Maybe we're talking about terrestrial television or radio waves, the brainwashing from the media. Maybe the satellites are being co-opted. It's a conspiracy theory that the world leaders and the aliens have these satellites which are able to broadcast thoughts to our minds, something like that. And interestingly, the second part of the chorus seems like the singer is waiting for confirmation or belief in that particular theory. I'm waiting patiently and I'll wait for the sign. It's probably true that the singer believes this, but they just need some evidence, and they probably think that their leaders are withholding that evidence from them. Another reason they hold them in disdain, because they are being dishonest to the general public. And we have a really cool short guitar solo after that chorus going into the second verse, which is interesting in its own right, because it's got these lyrics: carried through the centuries, secrets locked up and loaded on my back, it weighs me down. And this perspective surely cannot be from the same perspective of the singer that we heard before, whereas we're looking at someone presumably who is a member of the public looking for a sign that this is true, or being resistant to the political leaders hatching their malicious plan. The second verse seems to be a member of the government. Maybe someone comes into office, a new leader, and immediately they encounter these secrets which have been locked up, thrown in a vault, carried through the centuries. There There is years of build-up of conspiracies, of secrets that are not allowed to be disclosed to the public. And maybe the reason those leaders are not telling them is that those elected leaders are not actually the ones in full control. This idea that they have to keep all of this secret affects them too. It weighs them down. Maybe they are just as powerless as the ordinary man, because the people in control, going back to ruled by secrecy, which I will just say is a really great thematic link, great connective tissue between Absolution and Take a Bow, talking about these leaders. Someone is in control, and ending that album in politics and picking that up directly on Take a Bow and exploring it a lot more fully in this album is something that really works between these two albums. And I absolutely love this song. I think it's so big, it's so grand, the vocals are just amazing. I think it's a really interesting song and quite different for Muse. Unfortunately, it is overlooked, but I would love to hear this song live. I think that this song should be another live staple. Maybe not played every single time, but it should be in the revolving door of songs that come in and out, because this song needs to come back. It's so good. The next song is City of Delusion. This song is the one that has the most famous Spanish, Latin, or Mexican influence because it opens with an acoustic guitar part. I love how this song starts off slow and builds itself up. I absolutely love when the bass line comes in. The bass line is really great, but the tone just works so well. It's again using a 3-3-2 subdivision, a variation of that. That subdivision has a name. I should probably look it up because it's coming up a lot, but I hope you know what I mean by that. But it's the sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? It's like groups of 3 and then ending in a group of 2. And this song is still about politics and conspiracy theories. Can I believe when I don't trust? Talking about trust in leaders again. All your theories turn to dust. I choose to hide from the all-seeing eye. This song is about realizing a revelation, one of the album's themes, which is to be awake to political lies. Destroy this city of delusion. I love the iconography of City of Delusion. A city is tall, it is vast, it has been built over time, and that's the idea that you get from a city of delusion. It's that this deceit has been building up and worked on for many, many, many years, and it's difficult to break out of it because it's so embedded. It's a city of delusion that encompasses not just one person, but every single person, or at least attempts to. And break these walls down. I will avenge and justify my reasons with your blood. Linking again to Assassin and the lyrics there about bringing down the establishment and the political leaders. And I love how in the end of the chorus especially, we bring in more orchestral elements like the strings and the brass, the trumpets. The strings I would expect, because we actually haven't really heard a lot of the orchestral elements like the piano or the strings that we heard in songs like Butterflies and Hurricanes or Citizen Erased. More commonly in those previous two albums, this is the first time we hear the strings again, and it's quite nice to hear them. And the trumpets actually sound like they're muted trumpets. They're not the kind of brass sections you would hear in an orchestral environment. They give off a much more Mexican vibe, the kind of trumpet playing you would hear a busker perform. And this Central American influence is never more obvious than in the trumpet solo itself, which is the most famous part of the song and definitely the highlight of this track, the thing that makes it particularly memorable. I really like City of Delusion. I really like its energy and its groove. It's got a great bass line. It carries on the theme of political dissidence and revolution, and I like its Spanish influence, and I think the trumpet solo adds a lot, and the chorus is really big, and the strings in it are great too. The next song is Hoodoo. This is a very interesting song because it's a lot more subdued. It doesn't feel like an interlude in the way that Soldier's Poem can, but instead like a very slow and different track that is doing something entirely separate from the rest of the songs. And this is where this Western idea really feels very present. The song starts off with a galloping groove. It sounds like we're on horseback. We are in C minor and we have this half-step interval between the G and the G sharp. And we have this clean electric guitar playing that's very ambient and very reverbed to give us this very different and very isolating feel. The first verse is talking to someone. Come into my life, regress into a dream. We're looking to escape reality in some way. the lyric, and build a new reality. We will hide and build a new reality. Draw another picture of the life you could have had. Clearly, the person that we are or that we're talking to is unhappy with their life, probably because of the political reasons that we've explored so far. But they've had less opportunities available to them. They've been taken, they've been lied to. Follow your instincts and choose the other path is a very interesting lyric. Maybe the person has been influenced by other people's opinions rather than living their own life, making their own decisions. You should never be afraid. You're protected from trouble and pain. Why is this a crisis in your eyes again? This last part, whilst sung very beautifully, is indicating that something has gone wrong. Maybe the person does feel afraid and the singer is saying, well, you shouldn't, you're protected here. Why are you questioning? Why is this a crisis in your eyes again? This has happened before. Now I'm starting to think maybe the singer could be representing the government, the people who want to assert control. Maybe it's showing that this person, this singer, is actually as controlling as the government themselves. And the chorus is where we explore what's gone wrong. We indicate what we would like to happen and this ideal future and these desires we can offer someone. But now we're going to look at what goes wrong. How did it come to be tied to a railroad? No love to set us free. Watch our souls fade away. I always have the image from Dudley Do-Right of Snidely Whiplash tying him to the railroad. He's unable to escape and all he can do is watch the train careen towards him, and that's what this song feels like in this section. No love to set us free. We are stuck. We are tied to the railroad. Watch our souls fade away. Our bodies crumbling. Don't be afraid. I will take the blow for you. Whatever this blow isn't really clear. Linking it to stuff that we've seen in the album, we've seen soldiers who would lay down their life even though the people they're serving, particularly the leaders, are not worth saving. I will take the blow for you has a similar ring to it. There is an element of sacrifice involved. But the way that this blow would be absorbed is incredibly violent. Our bodies crumbling, your soul fading away, your loss of your personality, your individuality. Seemingly, based on these lyrics, there is nothing left after the blow has been absorbed. And maybe the reason the singer would take the blow for this person is because they don't actually have anything left to live for. They've spoken to this person and they've said, live the life you could have had, follow your instincts, given them hope, and actually they're sacrificing their own life to make way for someone else because their life has been so bleak, so without reward, so without opportunity that they would sacrifice themselves in such an absolute way. And the instrumentals in this section are great. We have these octave piano parts that are climbing in pitch, very Rachmaninoff inspired, one of the few really classical elements we can hear in this song and in this album generally. There is so much drama in this part, and that's really helped by the strings in the background, which are doing this tremolo playing, really building up the tension. I really love the long arco bows that they do, the rising and falling strings that we hear right before the end, emphasizing the tension. And the outro is really contemplative. I've had recurring nightmares that I was loved for who I am. That seemingly is a totally unfamiliar concept to the singer, and maybe the reason that they felt their life was so empty was because in their life they missed the opportunity to be a better man. This is actually, in my opinion, a very heavy song and very underrated because of how different it is in the album. It's easy to overlook this as an interlude, but actually there is so much substance to this song and you can really get a lot out of it, at least in my opinion. So I really like Hoodoo as well. And lastly on the album we have Knights of Cydonia. I think the best way to describe this song is that it's just really weird. That's a good thing because I really like this song, and I especially really like the live intro, the Ennio Morricone intro that they play, man with a harmonica, in the live versions of Knights of Cydonia. But that does not change the fact that this song is very weird. It is very strange. I have to admit, sometimes I'm not always in the mood for Knights of Cydonia, and I had to see live performances of it when I first started listening to the whole of Muse to really understand why this song was so well loved in the fan base. I thought for a long time it might just be because it was in Guitar Hero, because it never jumped out at me initially, but I do really like this song, and I would not go as far to say it's one of Muse's best songs, but I can definitely see the appeal because it is incredibly different. I do think, and I don't often say this about Muse songs, but I do think Knights of Cydonia is ever so slightly overrated. I would always prefer a song more like Assassin, to be honest. The song opens with what you can hear as like space lasers in the background, and then choral chanting comes in. That does sound like music from a western. I don't really know why, but it just does. It gives you that feeling, and you can hear horses' hooves in the background galloping, and then we actually replicate that in the music by establishing a galloping rhythm in the drums. There is this very interesting guitar melody which is going to form the basis of the vocal melody in the first verse, and before we even hear any lyrics at all, we can hear Matt singing in the second version of this guitar melody an octave above that pitch, singing the melody, and it's really impressive that he can do that, especially live, but it does definitely give you a really weird tone. You're thinking, what on earth is this song gonna be? And during that harmonization, we can hear trumpets in the background that have that Mexican feeling, like from City of Delusion, but it does very effectively establish that cowboy vibe, like we're riding on horseback, which is firmly established by the lyrics as soon as we hear them. Come ride with me. But we're not going to be riding through some desert somewhere. We're instead riding through the veins of history. I'll show you a god who falls asleep on the job. How can we win when fools can be kings? This seems to be referencing again the incompetence of political leaders and maybe the incompetence of political change being affected. I'll show you a god who falls asleep on the job. If God was real, then maybe they would be helping. But instead, look what humans are doing. Look what they're doing to each other. Look how people are living. Is this really the world that a god would exist in? Don't waste your time or time will waste you is a really classic lyric. Absolutely brilliant. Again, linking back to religion and definitely some of the stuff we heard in Absolution, like in Fury. Time will waste you. You're gonna die. So don't waste your time. Make the most of what you've got. And then we hear that choral vocal melody again. And we're done with the first section of the song now. We're done with that galloping section. And we then go into the second half of the song. So structurally, this song is all over the place as well, which is a thing I absolutely love, but we have to acknowledge this is a very weird song. And then all of the instruments come out and we hear, no one's gonna take me alive. The time has come to make things right. You and I must fight for our rights. So that's something we've heard already in the album, stuff like in Assassin, shoot your leaders down, fight for your rights, that sort of thing. You and I must fight to survive. This part of the song then builds back up with repeated hits on the snare and the floor tom until exploding into the final riffy section, which is this triplet riff, again using this 6 idea. When we're using 6, we're often trying to make use of that perpetual motion idea I talked about in Take a Bow. I think it's quite fitting that we end the album in triplets, and we started off in 6/8, and we hear some really heavy variations of the riff in that final section as well. This is also a song that's had a really great tempo for jumping up and down to in a live event as well, which is why it's such a famous live closer for Muse. I think that choral chanting in the final outro section is really big, it's really singable, it's probably another reason why it works so well as a live song, and I love sometimes the extra riffing they do in the final variations right before the song ends. There's also some really cool ride cymbal work that Dom does in that final version as well. There is a really cool live version of Knights of Cydonia that actually ends with the Space Dementia outro. So I like Knights of Cydonia and I can totally see why it would be a song that would be your favorite, but it's never really been a favorite of mine. It is a really good Muse song, and I'm not going to deny that, but it is not really my thing. And this is being super nitpicky because, like I keep saying, I like the song, just not as much as I like some of their other styles. Another song to talk about on this album is the bonus track, which is Glorious. This is a really great song, and it's a shame that it's not played as much as some of the others. I'm quite surprised it didn't make it on the album, to be honest, because the album is only about 45 minutes long, but there are so many cool parts about this song. I really like the chorus and how it builds up. It kind of feels like a pre-chorus for the entire thing, but I do like that about it. It's constantly building until the end, when Matt sings the title Glorious. I really like the intro with the plucking and the noises. I think the main melody, or the riff I guess you could call it, is really cool. Really long sustained notes. Sounds a lot like the 12th Doctor's theme from Doctor Who. It has a real heroic quality to it. And I love the live version at Shepherd's Bush when we have the piano part playing the 3-3-2 subdivision. The arpeggios are really great, and the drums really accent these subdivisions and this rhythm really well. I love the emphasis that the snare places on those beats. So I've always really loved Glorious, and I think it's a really great track and would fit really well on this album. Very surprised that it's not on here. And speaking of songs that I'm surprised are not on the album, we have 2 B-sides. Now, one of these songs is Easily, and this is one of the best B-sides and would definitely fit on the album, but for some reason it is on the Starlight single as a B-side. I believe Matt said that it was recorded or written too late to make it on the album, but honestly, this would be a great addition to have in Black Holes and Revelations. It is such a good song. It's like the greatest single that never was. I absolutely love the solo. I love the chorus, it's so big. I love the tom work in the drums as well. The bass line is really great, super duper groovy. And if you're not convinced on this song, then you have to listen to the live version from Shepherd's Bush in 2017, because that is such a good version of this song. And instead of tremolo picking that solo, Matt uses the whammy in that live performance, and it really fits. His vocals are really great in that chorus too. And so that's a really great song that should have been on this album. And the other B-side that's worth mentioning, of course, is Crying Shame, which is the Supermassive Black Hole single B-side. These songs have quite ironic names because Easily is easily one of their best B-sides, and Crying Shame is a crying shame that nobody knows more about this song. But I do think that this song benefits from being a B-side because I don't think this would have fit on Black Holes and Revelations. So I can understand why it's here. But even so, it's a short 2-minute song. The riff is really great, some brilliant guitar playing in the riff, and the vocals are really brilliant, especially the ending vocals when we leave the chorus into the riff. When Matt goes into his falsetto. The chorus is really big for a Crying Shame as well, best part of the song. It's a very high energy song, and it does have some of those Western elements to it that the rest of the album has, but it doesn't really feel like it would belong on Black Holes and Revelations. Doesn't change the fact that the song is still really good. Okay, this album was really hard to rank, but I think I've done it now. Unfortunately, at number 12, I mean, you've heard me talk about this album, you know that I like all of these songs, but I have to put at number 12 Soldier's Poem. At number 11, I'm putting Hoodoo. I think the pulled back feeling of it overall doesn't help it when compared to the rest of the album, but that doesn't mean it's not good in its own right, which it absolutely is. At number 10, I would put Invincible. At number 9, City of Delusion. At number 8, I'm going to put Glorious. At number 7, Knights of Cydonia. At number 6, Supermassive Black Hole. I think I prefer the groove on that song to something like Knights of Cydonia, which I can appreciate the scale of, but I'm sometimes not in the mood for Knights of Cydonia because it is so specific. At number 5, I'm going to put Take a Bow. At number 4, Exo-Politics, because I love that song and how big and groovy and awesome it is. At number 3, I'm going to put Starlight, because it is a really great song. Even if it is one of their most popular ones, it's popular for a reason. At number 2, I'm going to put Assassin, which is slightly different to how I would have ranked the album a number of years ago, because Assassin would have been my number 1, but I think over time I've really come to appreciate, and this is not a recent thing, this is something that I've known for many years now, but how good Map of the Problematique really is, and that is the number 1 spot. So that's the ranking. It's pretty brutal, but that's only because every single song on here is so good. Like I said, this is not my favorite Muse album, but that's not because it's not high quality or it's a dip in quality. I think this is roughly the same quality as Origin of Symmetry and Absolution, but it's to do with the flavor, and the Western flavor, while something I really appreciate, is just not ever going to be my favorite, and it's not going to be able to beat the space themes and the more orchestral ideas we hear in Absolution and in Origin of Symmetry. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any more reviews or other Muse content. Thank you for all of the support so far, and I will see you in the next one.